Hey, hi everyone. Through this video, I'm just gonna explain how Google Gemini, which earlier known as a Bard, and ChatGPT helped me to learn the Scala, especially the complicated concepts like what is effects, what is side effects, advanced library like CAT, CO, the concept like Monads, how ChatGPT and Google Bard helped me to understand these complicated concepts. Though I'm still not very comfortable with that, but at least I reached to the point with the help of those like ChatGPT and Google Bard to get the solution for the problems on which I need to build a solution in a Scala programming language. So as you can see on my screen, right, I have written bunch of programs so far just to understand the basic concept which every programming language has to offer. So, and before I just jump into more detail, like how Google Bard and ChatGPT helped me to learn Scala, which is seems like a easy one to understand, but believe me, when I try to learn that, especially how to combine the power of object-oriented programming language and the functional programming language together and to increase the readability and the maintainability of the code, I was um, initially I was very intimidating, when I saw that how those two, major concepts, gel together to provide, such a powerful language, especially to build a distributed system, right? So let me just show you how I started. So I started, 2 weeks back learning Scala, and you can see there are a lot of simple, programs which I have written like for to understand, the list collection, then flat map functionality, how the for comprehension works along with the yield, which is a bit different from whosoever is coming from the Python world. Before learning a Scala, I was completely in Python from last 4 to 5 years. I just built a lot of automation framework by using Python. But learning a Scala was always in my to-do list. I was not able to devote time, but I mean 2 weeks back, I just thought that I should start learning it. Then this generic. I try to understand what is generic, then multi-threading, multitasking, because you can't even imagine if you want to build a system without knowing how the multi-threading, multitasking works. um some simple things. Sorry. And the most important thing which I figured out, this option thing, which new to me, at least being in a Python, I never come across such thing. Probably there would be something, but I didn't use it. But when I just figured out how the option works in Scala, that was really helpful to reduce the number of codes and to have a more robust mechanism through which you can write a very defensive code. For example, the values which you where for example, if you are hitting some API, or if you are having some network call, if you are trying to get something from database and that is not giving you the expected result, then how you can write a very concise code through which you can handle that situation, right? Option looks very good. Again, the polymorphism, object-oriented programming concept, that's really helpful. The queue thing, structural recursion. Recursion, again, it's a very fundamental concept of any programming language. Then the various different terminology. For example, in Scala we have trait instead of interface like what we have in a Java. Then we have different kind of classes like case class, and then we have object, which is a singleton object, pretty much similar to the singleton object in a Java. So there are a lot of things which are common between Java and Scala, but Scala has this additional ability uh, to write the solution in the functional way, which is really interesting to know. It's a new thing for me to just gel together both the concept. Though in Python I try to do that a lot, but in Scala it seems like it is handled in a very different way, in a very interesting way, which makes this programming language really a one of the best option to build a distributed system. And there are a lot of dedicated libraries and a lot of design pattern which are actually very very effective and very very efficient to build robust distributed system against many failures, right? Then when I was learning a basic concept, it was very easy for me to understand, right? But the moment I get into the situation where I need to understand effects, side effects, then the library like gets Zio, HTTP 4S to write, RESTful web server. Um, then I realized, it's not very easy to understand, right? At that point of time, I tried to utilize the power of large language model or the multimodal AI tools like Google Bard and ChatGPT, right? So what I did is when I just come across these specific concepts, so for example, like I was not able to get my head you know, straight when it comes to understanding effects and effects type, effects, side effects, the classes. Then I write a very simple question to the Google Bard that I'm a newbie to Scala, not able to understand the Scala advanced topic like effect, side effect, type classes, monads. And this is what I got it. I understand this advanced Scala topic can be daunting for newcomers. Lay a strong foundation, which is traditional. Everybody knows that, you have to start with the very basic and you have to go a little slow in the beginning. You have to understand, a lot of stuff which is specific to Scala. Though you can, make a comparison between whatever the earlier language like, I mean, which concept you can relate with the new concept which you have in a new programming language. Then in Scala fundamentals like generics, collections, operate options with either, right? Then what it says, it gives you a bunch of start with a simplified explanation. So this looks good. I mean, and so the main thing is it provide you some references as well. It's very generic in nature again. Then I posted the same question on ChatGPT, right? And here I got a very different, response. Scala can have a steep learning curve, especially when diving into the advanced topic like effect, side effect, type classes, and monads. Here are the simple explanation of each concept, right? So ChatGPT seems to be giving me a more relevant answer here. Effects and side effects. Effect like any observable interaction with the outside world. Not very conducive and not very easy to understand, right? I know. Until or unless you will write some code where you can see this effects in action, you won't be able to understand it. Same thing as side effect. An effect that changes something beyond the scope of a function being executed. For example, modifying a variable outside a function scope, printing to the console and making a network. This makes sense, right? If you are printing out something on console, then that is happening outside the scope of your function. This make little bit of sense, but how it is going to help, I'm still trying to grab that. So Scala provides ways to manage and minimize the side effect through the technique like functional programming and the pure function, which always return the same output for the same input and have no observable side effects. So it seems like there are some mechanism which Scala provides to control, effects and side effects. I think that is probably I need to learn more with the library which actually built around these concepts. Right. The type classes again, another interesting topic, though it seems like ChatGPT again giving a very solid response as compared to Google Bard. Probably we can tweak our question a little bit more and see how the Google Bard behaves. Then monads, right? A monad is a design pattern used in functional programming to present computation that have sequential dependency. Makes sense, but again, you have to write some code to understand this in a more better way. Right. So it looks like, ChatGPT is provide us, more is, I think, in a way which can be easily understand theoretically, but again, you have to write some code. So let's ask one thing to the ChatGPT. Can you provide some basic examples to understand effects, and side effects. Okay, and we can ask same question to here, like clean effects and side effects. Let's see what will Bard give it to us and what ChatGPT. Okay, so let's see what we got here. Okay, so ChatGPT pure function, no side effects means there is. It seems like a pure function is a function that given the same input will always return the same output and has no observable side effect. It only depends on its input parameter. So basically pure function is, now this completely makes sense, not this line, but if you just see this code, right, which completely makes sense. You have a function where you are adding two values and we know that if we are going to feed in 3 and 5, we always gonna get 8. So it's a pure function and there is no possibility that your output is going to be changed by any means, right? A function that side effect is a function that modifies some state outside of its scope and interacts with the external world in the observable manner, right? So here, if you just see this function read, right? So here it is going to print out, hello name, and this name, right? Side effect printing to the console, right? In a function, modifies some state outside of its scope or interacts with the external world in an observable manner, right? So here, if you just see what we are doing, we are actually printing out, one string which depends upon this function variable, right? So once you print this out, this is going to be thrown to your console, which is outside your function. And depending upon what value you are feeding in, this is actually getting print out to the console. So which is outside the scope of a function, right? This makes sense. Like immutability, I mean, I didn't even ask, but it's mentioned that referential transparency is really an important thing to understand in Scala, basically. And then what we have, let's see what Gemini has. Effect versus side effect in Scala. Imagine you are baking a cake. So here is how effects and side effect differs. No effects, function. Mix ingredients, cake mix. This function takes ingredient as important cake mix object, represent the mixed batter. It doesn't have any effects beyond creating the mix. It's like a recipe that tells us what to combine without mentioning changing the tup. Like, okay. Now, effects as in no side effects, right? Function def bake cake mix o1 bake cake. This function takes code cake makes an o1 and input and returns bake code of it. Doesn't directly modify anything outside the function, but it describes an effect which is baking. It's like saying put the mix in the oven and bake without specifying the temperature and duration. It's hard to understand, right? Though it tried to explain in simple example, probably I just didn't put like, can I get, with example, like, could you please provide a simple example, code example to explain the effects? Let's see, because it seems like, ChatGPT response is making more sense to understand those important concepts which Scala has to offer us. But here, oh man, cool. It seems like Bard is also giving us the same function, add numbers, right? But here, effects with no side effect, right? The format date, cool. The function format date it has effect because it transforms the input, but it doesn't have any side effect. It does not modify any external variable or resource. Increment counter, this makes sense because every time you're going to run it, this global counter value is going to be changed depending upon what's the previous value is, right? So this makes sense. Cool. But if you just see in ChatGPT response, it seems like it has a lot more information to offer along with effects, it seems like here the ChatGPT is doing a good job as compared to what Google Gemini and Bard is doing. Pure function, side effect, immutability, referential transparency. It looks good, but the good part is, wherever I'm getting stuck, I can ask for the help from Google Bard and ChatGPT. That's actually helped my journey. And believe me, I mean, it's just my personal experience that, learning an advanced topic in any programming language is always, little bit messy. You have to put a lot of effort. You have to write a lot of code if you really want to understand the concept, so that you can build some kind of solution, right? I'm really enjoying this part, though I have been struggling to understand the precise concept of effects, side effects, libraries like CO, CATs, and HTTPS, HTTP4S, FS2, Doobie, right? So there are a lot of libraries where I'm still struggling to get my head straight, but I know I have to put more effort to understand those complicated concepts. It's not easy. I know it's going to take weeks or months to understand that. And the most important part, I have to write a lot of codes, and I'm ready to do that because nothing comes up without paying a cost, right? And as much as cost you're gonna pay in terms of putting an effort, definitely I will be having a more knowledge about Scala. So what I'm saying here is, use this Google Bards, Gemini, and Chat GPT, which is really helping me a lot to, you know, simplify the complicated concept, within, Scala programming language. And it is really helping me. And I hope, this video is giving you the sense that how you can structure your learning, especially for the complicated concept, and start using these tools like ChatGPT, Google Bar to understand the complicated concept, and if you just write anything to these tools are really very good, and most of the time all you need to do is to write this questions again and again. You ask one question, you get some response. If you are not happy, you can write that why you are not happy, and then you can ask a relevant question. Probably in that way, this Google Bard or Gemini or the Chat GPT will provide you the more precise answer for the next follow-up question. So keep exploring this. It's really gonna help you a lot. At least this is what my experience is, and we have to be very thankful for the team who has put together these kind of tool, which is really helping us to make our understanding on the complicated topic very easy. So as always, that's it which I wanted to cover. But as always, I want to thank all of you to just watch my videos, and I will always advise, as I always do, keep learning a new thing and stay healthy and work hard.